What up, y'all? What up, what up, what up? How's everybody doing today? Yeah, we about to have a nice little discussion today. Yes, sir. How's everybody doing today? How are y'all feeling? How y'all doing? What's going on? I hope everybody's week's been good. What's good? Cervantes Hoskins, what up, baby? Yo, we in here today. We in here. We finna hang out a little bit. We finna talk a little bit. So, as I always do, give a couple minutes to let people get on up in here so we can have this nice little discussion, because I think this is important. And I think that, I think when we have this discussion right here, I think it's going to, really kind of I think it's going to give y'all something to consider, give y'all something to think about a little bit, because, this one here is going to be interesting. So, yeah. So we're going to get into it in a bit here. We're going to go ahead and get into it and see what's going on. All right. So check me out, right? This is another hashtag Get Real Woke discussion. Today we talking about social media marketing, right? And as always, it's hashtag for the free around here. So here we go, right? Here we go. Now, when we talk about social media marketing, social media is really important. In the 21st century, in 2021, given everything, especially with COVID right now, technology, digital marketing, digital media, social media marketing, these things are paramount for the success of any business today, right? So if you are a business, if you are an influencer, if you got a brand of any kind, if you're not hip to the social media game, it's going to be hard to succeed. It's just going to be really, really hard for you in today's society where everybody keeps a phone in their hand. You know what I mean? And everybody is always looking at Facebook, looking at LinkedIn, looking at Instagram, looking at TikTok, looking at Snapchat. It's a lot of social media platforms out there, looking at Twitter, so if you're not on these things, it's going to be real hard for you to engage with your customer base. So let's talk about that, right? So first of all, what is social media? What exactly is it? Let's understand it. Everybody, a lot of people are on social media, but do you really understand what social media is? So I want to talk to you about what social media is. So what social media is, right? Back in the day, before, the rise and the growth of social media, before it became an important factor, people networked in a different way, right? So, before social media, people would go out to networking events, meetups, your local business, your business and commerce divisions, for the governments would sponsor little meetups. Chamber of Commerce's would, sponsor meetups, different businesses, different groups, different organizations, different professions, different industries. They would sponsor these meetups. And don't get me wrong, that still happens today. Well, not really today because of COVID, but, face-to-face meetups are still happening, right? But the challenge you have with face-to-face meetups, and the challenge that still persists with face-to-face meetups, is the fact that, it's still networking. You're networking for sure. Let's be clear, you're networking. The goal of these meetups was to network. It was to meet people. It was to shake hands. It was to press a business card in somebody's hand. And it was an opportunity for you to leave an impression on somebody to potentially do business together, or work with their clients, or work with them in some way, shape, or form that was going to get you some money, right? That was the goal of networking. It was all about, meeting people, building relationships, and being seen. That's really what, traditional networking and traditional social meetup groups were about. That's what it was about. But they were limited in scope. They were limited to whoever showed up. They were limited to that local area. So let's say you lived in Los Angeles, and let's say, you live in, let's say, West Hollywood, and, they're having a meetup in West Hollywood for, let's say, the beauty and healthcare industry, or the entertainment industry, or, the real estate industry, or something of that nature. Chances are, most times, the people that were coming to these meetups, to these networking events, were, they were the local people. They were the people from West Hollywood and the surrounding areas. It was unlikely that somebody from San Francisco, unless they were a paid speaker, was going to come all the way down to West Hollywood, which is in Los Angeles, and come to this meetup. Unless it was some very well-known, very well-respected meetup. I mean, it was unlikely that you were going to be able to meet somebody all the way in San Francisco, or let's take it even further, someone all the way in New York, right? Social media changed the game, though. See, what social media did was, social media allowed you the ability to reach a wider audience, because you really didn't have to go anywhere, right? So what social media did, social media is networking in the 21st century. That's what social media is. It's networking. It's the opportunity for you to get yourself, your brand, your products, your information. It was the opportunity for you to get that into a wider audience, because you could literally, right, get on social media and meet someone all the way in Hong Kong, meet someone all the way in India, meet someone all the way in Japan, meet someone all the way in Africa. Someone could buy your product literally all the way in Africa, simply because you were on social media. That's reality, right? So social media connected the world. Social media brought the global economic environment, right to the palm of your hand. That's what it did for you. That's social media. Social media is community networking on steroids. That's what social media is. If any of you guys are in Clubhouse right now, or on the Clubhouse app, and it's funny, I went out and got me a little iPhone 7 just to be on Clubhouse, right? Because I'm an Android user. I'm an Android user. But Clubhouse is so impactful, right? Clubhouse is so impactful that I actually went out and got me a basic iPhone for one purpose and one purpose only: the ability to be on Clubhouse. Such is the power of social media at this point. Social media will make you spend money to be able to fully leverage the opportunity of social media. Now, here's the thing, right? Let's get into some of the fundamentals of social media. To really be good at social media, to really be good at growing a following, to really be good at, delivering a product to someone on social media, you got to understand people. See, social media is all about people. It is all about customer engagement. It is all about engaging with your following. And just like if you have a friend or you have a client in real life that you follow up with on a regular basis, that you check on, that you email, well, guess what? All of your followers on social media are potential customers. They're all potential customers. So just like you would engage with a potential customer face to face, via email, so on and so forth, you have to put the same engagement activity into social media. You have to be consistently engaging with your audience. That is how you build a brand. That is how you're going to build your credibility. That is how you're going to build your following. That is how you're going to build the trust, right? And that is how, those are the things that people need to be able to feel confident buying something from you or doing business with you, right? Now, when you're marketing on social media, when you're branding on social media, it's no different than branding anywhere else or marketing anywhere else. Here's the interesting thing, right? The same concepts that you use to brand or put, like when they put up billboards, TV ads, etc., it's the same concept that you got to put into practice on social media. So check this out, right? Remember, I told you, social media is all people. It's all about people. So in order to reach your target demographic, in order to reach the people, right, that you want to be able to talk to, right, you got to understand what they're about. You got to do market research on these people. You got to understand the psychology of how they think, what it is that they want, and what is it that moves them to be able to go from a prospect to a customer, right? That is that is the key to being able to convert on social media. It's the same key that you use to convert everywhere else. And here's the interesting thing, right? There are 3 things that people want in this life. 3. And if you can understand these 3 things, right, you're going to be able to really build quality relationships through social media and convert prospects into customers, convert your audience into customers, right? There are 3 things people want. They want to feel valued, they want to feel special, and they want to feel important. These are the 3 things that they want. They want to feel valued, special, and important. So that means that when you, for example, I give you a good example right now, right? So I'm talking to you guys right now. Of course, you guys are in the chat. You guys are making comments and all of that. Watch this. Treehouse T61, how you doing, baby? It's nice to see you in here. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you spending time with me today. I hope you learned something. Yo, listen, bro, if you need anything, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'd be more than happy to help you. Look at what I did right there. I just shouted him out. I acknowledged him. I appreciated him. I gave him 3 things: valued, special, important. Because there are other people in here. I ain't shouting nobody else out, but I shouted him out, right? See how that just worked right there? See, when you deal with people, there are 3 things that bind people together. And see, this is the other thing that you got to understand. There are 3 things. So there are 3 things that people want, and there are 3 things that bind people together. So remember, I told you people want to feel valued, special, and important. But what are the 3 things that bind people together? These are the 3 things that bind people together. Check this out. Ethnicity, religion, and language. These are the 3 things that bind people together: ethnicity, religion, and language. So guess what? If I walk up to you, right, and I'm gonna give you some good examples of great marketing, right? I'm gonna give you some great examples of great marketing in a second, but check this out. If I walk up to you, you're African American, I'm African American, right? I already got an in. I already got now your level of trust your level of distrust just went from here to here. Simply because my skin is the same color as yours. We are the same ethnicity. Now, make it even better, right? Let's say, I seen you coming out of the church house, right? I seen you coming out of the church house, but I see you got a little swag to you. You know what I mean? You got a little walk to you. You know what I mean? You got a little stroll to you. You see what I'm saying? So I run down on you, and when I talk to you, I don't say Allahu Akbar, even though I'm Muslim. I ain't gonna say that to you. Why? Because that would raise the distrust level back to here. Why? Why is that? Because we are of different religions. But if I walk up to you and I'm like, praise the Lord, brother, how you doing today? You know what I mean? I see you out here doing your thing at the church. You know God is good all the time. Huh? And then you might fire back, and all the time God is good. Yes, Lord. I am building a bond. Now we the same color. It feels as though we are of the same religion. So now the distrust just went from here to here, right? I talked to you in a language that I felt like would make you comfortable, right? I didn't come down and I didn't tell you, the geological precipitation of the way the earth ran. I didn't come at you like that because that's not your lane. That's not your swag. That's not your thing. I came to you like, what's good, my brother? How you doing? You know what I mean? Holla at me real quick. You like, oh, okay. He can identify. And because of that, now the trust level just went down. The distrust just went down to here. You see how in literally a matter of 20 or 30 seconds, I took the level of distrust from here all the way down to here. Social media is the same thing. Social media is the same concept. It's building bonds and building relationships with the target audience of people that you want to push product into. That's it. That is the key concept in social media. Now, let's get into some of the technicals. Now, well, before we do that, I want to give you some examples of some marketing. Now, you know, it's a gentleman I'm going to use as a good example of a great marketer, right? Now, and I'm going to say this up front. And I said this before in a post that I put up, in an infographic that I put up. Do not let social media, right, cause you to lose everything you worked hard for. Huh? What did I mean by that? I'm going to get into it right now, right? So, you know, if you want to buy a sandwich from a brother, you want to buy some chicken from a brother, you want to buy a pair of shoes from a brother, you want to buy a watch from a brother, that's a lot different than taking financial literacy information from somebody, right? And see, here's the thing, right? Being good at branding and marketing doesn't mean you're good at financial literacy. You have any financial knowledge, you have any credentials, you have any reputation, you have any experience, you have any credible industry related anything, right? But somebody that's good at branding and marketing, right? They know that if they target the right demographic, none of that really matters. Let me give you an example, right? So when you really do your homework and you really study, right, a demographic, and we're going to use the African American demographic now. We're going to use that demographic, right? So when you really study a demographic, right, check this out. I'm giving y'all game right now. Now check this out. When you really study a demographic, right, like the African American community, you learn a thing. You learn that the African American community has the lowest financial literacy rate out of any other ethnic demographic in the United States. You also learn that they have the lowest savings to income ratios. You also learn that we have the lowest FICO scores out of any other ethnic demographic throughout the United States. So what does that tell you? That from a financial literacy standpoint, right? Here we go. From a financial literacy standpoint, right? We're not the brightest. We don't know the most. We have the least amount of education. So there are a lot of things that we don't know. And because there are a lot of things that we don't know, when somebody comes talking financial jargon, we don't have the knowledge to be able to weigh if what they're saying is real or not. Here enters marketing, right? So somebody that's great at marketing, let's say Jay Morrison, right? The Tulsa Real Estate Fund, right? Great marketer. He understood his demographic. He understood what they didn't know, right? And he understood that people want to feel valued, special, and important. And the things that bind people together, right, are ethnicity, religion, and language. He found the commonalities. He put it together in a marketing documentation, marketing videos, marketing campaigns on social media, and he was able to raise $13 million. Why? It's very simple. He preyed on what people didn't know, right? So he threw out a whole bunch of fancy language, a whole bunch of fancy jargon, and it all sounded good, right? He paid the right people to endorse him, right? Put on a great little thing with what did it, Young Jeezy? Was it Young Jeezy with Young Jeezy, right? Whole little show, all of that, $1 million donation that, by the way, didn't really happen. But he put on a nice little show and he targeted the demographic. And people bought it, right? He called people kings and queens, right? See, he called people kings and queens, right? He said, we're going to buy back the block. He preyed on the emotions because he understood that most African Americans are of a Christian background. So because they're of a Christian background, right, they know enough about the Bible where it talks about, you know, forgiveness. It talks about mercy. It talks about compassion. It talks about togetherness. It talks about all of these things, right? And so he preyed on that. So what does that make? So what does that make the African American community from a psychological standpoint when you look at it from the religious precepts that they follow? What it makes them, right, is a lot more forgiving, a lot more willing, a lot more emotional, and a lot more willing to participate on a unity and a togetherness type situation. He understood that, African Americans are disenfranchised. He understood that. He understood the history of slavery, how the oppressor, the slave drivers, how they tried to break us apart. He understood the history, not the full history, but he understood enough about Tulsa real estate, Tulsa, Oklahoma to understand what happened there, right? So what did he do, right? He branded. I'm going to call my real estate fund the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. We rebuilding Black Wall Street back. Why? Because he understands that African Americans are in a position now where they want to be wealthy. He understood that, we want the finer things in life. He understood that, that we like nice things, that we want to be great, that we want to be successful. He understood these things, right? He understood them well, right? And because he understood them well, right, what did he do? So when he took pictures on social media, what he did was, right, he took pictures in front of big houses, right? He took pictures of himself riding around in a Rolls Royce Phantom. He took pictures of him not only in the Rolls Royce Phantom, but he took pictures of him with stacks and stacks of money in his hand like he getting it, right? Because he understood that most people in the African American, because remember, we have the lowest savings to income ratio, right? And because we have little financial literacy training overall in the community, right? He understood that if I show this money, right? He understood that most people, like hip hop and R&B, and when you watch the music videos, what are the rappers doing? They throwing money at the strippers. They got bands in their hand, right? Spin a check and get it right back, right? So he's going to emulate, right? Because media influences decision. He's going to emulate the images that have been projected into our community over and over again. And by emulating those images, by emulating those views, by emulating those perceptions, right? He understood, right, that people would associate him with wealth and greatness. And because of that, they would then associate him with trustworthy and credible. And they associated him with that. He knew they would give him their money. And that's exactly what happened, to the tune of $13 million. Such is the power of social media branding and marketing and understanding your demographic. That is the key. That is the key. See what I'm saying? That is how social media works. That is the power of social media. Because now, right, he could use, and now we're going to get into keywording, right? So when you build a social media campaign, you got to have keywords, right? You got to use certain keywords so when people put it in Google, when people search it, right? So what did he use? Legacy center. Legacy this. Wealth that. African American wealth. African American power. Kings and queens. Malcolm X. Why do you think he called himself the young Malcolm? Why do you think he referenced Malcolm X over and over and over and over again? Right? Because guess what? If someone Googles Malcolm X, right? And he's done several videos referencing himself as Malcolm X, when he puts it in the description, young Malcolm X, young Malcolm, right? Jay Morrison, aka Young Malcolm. Jay Morrison, aka the rebirth of Malcolm X. So when somebody Googles Malcolm X, a well-respected, right, figure in the African American community of history, guess who else is going to pop up in the Google search? Jay Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. So somebody that's researching Malcolm X probably has a little bit of knowledge on the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, right? Or the Tulsa, Oklahoma Black Wall Street. So they're going to want to know what this is about. They're going to click, they're going to watch his videos, and now that's called a click-through, right? Now he's got a click-through. Now, right, they're reading about it. They're reading about how he's trying to rebuild Black Wall Street, how he's going to, buy back the block, all of these things, right? This resonates with a person that's all about supporting the black community. And so now what are they going to do? If his transaction funnel is good, what is a transaction funnel? A transaction funnel is the conversion process from to the website, to the sale, to the close. It's called a transaction funnel. All the pages that it takes to get you to close. From the product page, to the cart, to the checkout, to entering your card details, to hitting submit to purchase. and getting the product, right? For him, it was submitting to invest your money, right? Now, notice when people really pressed him about his plan, right? How he was going to buy back the block, how he was going to do things like that, how he was going to make money for people. He never really had a clear answer for that. And do you know why that is? Because he had no financial literacy knowledge. He had no business knowledge. He has no real real estate background. He had no fund management experience. He has no accounting knowledge. All of the things you would need to be successful at doing the thing, he didn't have. But what he did have was a great marketing strategy. So when people would ask him questions, he would give very vague answers, and then he would divert back to kings and queens and how we buying back the block. He would throw out such terms as gentrification, which gentrification to the African American community is always a dangerous thing. So if he says, I'm going to stop gentrification, we are going to work together to stop gentrification, right? Oh man, he's trying to lead us out. Let me give him my money. And so people didn't do any research because they were emotionally involved. He created an emotional reaction. Such was the purpose of his branding and his marketing and his social media campaign. See how that works? See, so when you really understand social media marketing and branding, right? When you really understand this concept, right? You understand that really all it is psychology. All it really is understanding people. All it is being able to speak to a demographic. You notice how, in his marketing, right? He talked about how he used to be a drug dealer from the block, right? Who was he targeting? He was targeting people that were engaged in illicit activities. So that way, if they gave him money, then he decided not to give it back and run away with it. There wasn't anyone they could run and tell, because then they would have to tell how they got their money. It was very clever. Such was his branding and marketing and social media campaign. See what I'm saying? Or how about, from what I understand, he's got T.I.'s nephew working with him. Well, T.I. is a rapper. We all identify with entertainment. We all identify with the hip hop industry. So if T.I.'s nephew is messing with him, then he must be credible, right? So what he did was he made himself credible by association. See, that's the other thing to branding and marketing. Sometimes it's not important what you're saying, but what other people are saying about you, right? So he got people like Boyce Watkins to stand up and say positive things about him. Granted, I can't prove it, but likely Boyce Watkins got paid something. And for all of his degrees in education, Boyce Watkins really isn't that bright of an individual when it comes to economics and financial, things. He's really not, to be quite honest with you. Surface level cool, but when you dig real deep, you get under the surface, it's not impressive. It's just not impressive. You know what I mean? But he knows more than the average person in the African American community. See, you got to understand something about the African American community when it comes to business and finance and things like that. Because we know so little, right? The bar to impressing, the bar to being the greatest, the bar to being the best, right, is extremely low, right? So think about it like this. You ever seen somebody jump a broom? That's about how high you got to jump to impress somebody in the African American community with financial knowledge, because that's how little bit of knowledge that we do have. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you can't let social media, right, what you see on the surface, cause you, right, to lose everything you worked hard for. See what I'm saying? I got Warrior BK718 saying that's what his degrees are in. I understand that. But if you understand anything about college, right? Most people that graduate in finance and economics go on and take certification programs. Do you know why that is? Because college does not teach you relative real world experience or fill the skills gaps that you'll need to be successful in a career in finance. Gives you the baseline knowledge. Gives you a lot of theoretical knowledge, not practical application. See, a global economic environment, it advances and improves and morphs very, very quickly. So traditional educational environments are not able to keep up. Most of the information you learn in a college program is already antiquated long before you graduate. But that's another conversation for another day. You know what I mean? So that's that right there. But I just wanted to spend a little time, you know what I mean? I wanted to let y'all know a few things. And check this out though, right? So if you really want to understand social media marketing, you know, from a technical standpoint, from the beginning to the end, not just the psychology that I discussed here. I wrote a great book on social media marketing, profiting from social media. I wrote a great book on it. It's at my website. You know what I mean? FredrickDScott.com. The link is in the bio. You know, if you really want to go from where you are professionally to being able to capitalize and profit from social media marketing, I would highly recommend that you read that book right there, because I really get into the technical specifics of understanding your audience, of doing market studies, of understanding how to phrase your conversations, understanding the specific things that you need to know about the different social media social media platforms, the pros and the cons, right? I get into everything. So you know what I mean? Like, definitely check that out, you know, but I definitely want to spend a little time with y'all today. I wanted to share with y'all. Of course, like always, feel free to like, subscribe, share, follow, you know what I mean? Share this information with anybody that you think can benefit from this information, because the more eyes we get on this content, right, the more of a benefit that this content will be for the people whose eyes are on it. As always, right, hit that notification button so that way you know when I'm going live. As I promised y'all will be seeing more of me. And here I am, baby. So listen, now you know what? Here's an interesting thing. You know, my good buddy here, Mr. Boykins, Vince Boykins right here, said, let me get a discount code on the Brook Bro Laugh Out Loud. So just because he asked, I got a 10% discount code for y'all. When you go into the checkout, put change 10 in the discount code. Change 10 and you'll get a 10% discount. So everybody that watches this video will be eligible for a 10% discount on their first ebook purchase at FredrickDScott.com. As always, y'all, we hashtag for the free in these discussions. You know what I mean? I hope y'all appreciated and enjoyed this. I hope y'all learned something. And I hope this video makes y'all think long and hard before, right, you jump in with somebody just because they looking good on social media. I'm going to leave y'all with this. It's a hip-hop song. I can't quote the name of the song or the artist, but there is definitely one verse that I remember. And it went something like this. Your Instagram is a liar. I'm just saying. Be known. All right? So with that said, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for spending some time. I'll holla at y'all.